Happy Friday. Welcome to Conservation Fridays with the Berry Conservation District. Today, Ben Savoie, District Forester, is going to talk about forests and climate resiliency.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben Savoie. I work as the forester here at the Conservation District. And today I want to talk a little bit about how the past of our forests is kind of shaping what the future of our forest looks like with the changing climate. Basically, in the past, we had a lot of disturbance-adapted forest, things that would be interacting with fire, windstorms, things that would completely replace these large forested stands. And as we have developed land, we have much less of that. Now, with climate change causing more severe weather, having a warmer climate that causes either more fires or is adapting, is more favorable for heat-adapted species. We're seeing these kind of big changes come back. So what I want to talk about is how we build resiliency to these big changing events that are going to be happening, and how it will be affecting our forests, and how we can prepare our forests to be healthy in the future. So the biggest impacts that we're going to see from climate change is the increase in temperature and the severe weather. The increase in temperature means that some species that need cooler temperatures and more stable temperatures throughout the year are going to have a harder time surviving. So these are things like maples and beeches that survive in the shade, that are more adapted to these very cool environments that don't need a ton of sunlight to succeed. The impact that this is going to have on those species is that a lot of them will either die off down here and only be able to survive farther north, or the ones that do it have some adaptation to heat, something that is more disturbance adapted is going to succeed in their place. So instead of sugar maple, you might have more red maple. In the case of things that are going to do well with these changes, oaks are kind of the winners of climate change here. They are really adapted to the higher temperatures and can survive these larger weather events because they have deep, robust root systems. And they can survive in poor climate conditions already. So we're seeing some more southern species of oak trees like chinkapin oak, other southern varieties of oak like live oak, moving northward as the regions that they can survive in are more favorable for their preferred conditions. The big change that we'll see for oaks in Michigan is seeing more oak diversity, basically. So they are going to be doing well. The species that won't be doing it as well out of that would be white oak, where white oak is typically adapted to more water and cooler environments in loamy soil, whereas the red oaks and black oaks are going to be doing just fine. What we can do to kind of help promote these healthy forests into the future is to basically build up a resiliency to change and resiliency to the future environment that we're going to be having. So what we can do is actually actively manage our forest to bring in those disturbances and actually bring back species that would do well, and cut back on species that are not going to do as well in the future. Because we know that climate change is happening, and the effects that we're going to see are currently starting. So it's something that we can prepare for now and build up resiliency to for the future. The things that we can do include things like timber harvesting. You can take out some trees to let light down into the understory and increase the heat basically at the forest floor, and release new growth and species that are adapted to that kind of situation come up underneath that. And another kind of interesting thing that you can do is assisted migration, which is less of bringing in completely new trees and more of bringing trees that would normally be at the northern end of their range to where they could survive more easily. So in the case of Chingapin oak, which is typically more southern than Michigan, in the like Indiana, well, southern Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, that's where you tend to see more of that. Bringing that up to southern Michigan is more of an assisting part of its migration patterns. It would do this normally over a long period of time, but we can adapt to a rapidly changing climate by helping out this sort of process take place faster. With that, I'll open up to any questions that the audience has.
I guess I'll pop right back in.
Yeah.
All right, it looks like we have a question from Zach, or maybe a statement. Oh, here it is. So he says that we have poor oak regeneration in much of Michigan. Do you think that climate change will help improve that?
That's a very good question. So oak regeneration mostly is a problem in southern Michigan because of the massive deer herd that we have. So herbivory of the acorns and seedlings is a huge problem. With climate change, we may see changes in where the deer herd is actually present, or whether they can survive in those kind of conditions. It has been a painstaking process trying to figure out what we can do to improve poor oak regeneration. There are many studies on what to do about that, but as far as climate change goes, the conditions for oaks to do well will be improving. So we may see more oak regeneration as a result of that.
Well, I'm not seeing any other questions, so we'll give it another minute. Yeah, so is there anything that people can, like, we have a district tree sale coming up in April. Will you be available to give people recommendations on what kind of trees and how they can deal with that when that time comes before ordering, or what kind of help can you give people for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So through the Forestry Assistance Program, I can provide free assessments for your property and any on-site assistance with the technical parts of forestry at no cost to landowners in Berry, Allegan, and Ottawa counties. And this includes things like suggestions on what new species to plant for your property, whether your property is well adjusted for climate change, or if there are things that may need to be done for the future of the forest there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and close this out.